Wilkins, in the development of the 350 and the 375 series, has a new generation coming out with the ST designation. The ST standing for stainless steel. They're making the same internal parts of the 350 series with the ductile iron fused epoxy that we just saw in RP and double check, but they're making it in a stainless steel body. It's going to be available in sizes 2.5 through 10. The rubber repair kits are interchangeable between the stainless steel body and the ductile iron body, except for one O-ring, which we'll talk about in a second. The stainless steel body is a fabricated stainless steel body, meaning they take pieces of stainless steel tubing, extruding it and putting pieces together, mating surfaces and welding the surfaces together. So anytime you have a fabricated body versus a poured cast body, there could be end-to-end dimensions based on the thickness of each of the welds along the body. So the end-to-end dimensions might be slightly off depending what the literature says versus what a real one says, and it's got to do with the thickness of the welds as they put the body together. The cover access, just like the ductile iron body version, is a groove coupling with a groove coupling gasket attaching it to there. There will also be a detector assembly version, double check detector assembly version, the 350A, ST meaning stainless steel, DA meaning detector assembly, in sizes 2.5 through 10. The same fabricated stainless steel body will be used on the detector assemblies with the bypass around it, with the bypass meter and the bypass assembly. There's going to be a double check detector assembly and RP detector assembly, utilizing the 950 as the bypass model, the XL version on here, for the bypass of the detector assembly. The reduced pressure principal assemblies using the same 375 designation with the stainless steel body as they do with the ductile iron body that's fused epoxy coated. Remember, in the ductile iron version they had an A and a non-A model. The A meaning that the end of the body was the A version was a grooved coupling, where the non-A version was a flanged body. They're only going to make the A version, which means that the end configuration of the body is only going to be available in a grooved end attachment. So the same stainless steel body as we saw in the 350 series, the ST series, groove coupling access for the checks. The same relief valve that they utilize in the 375 series, the ductile iron body, will be used in the stainless steel body. So the rubber repair kits will be exactly the same except for one O-ring on the check assemblies, which we'll talk about when we take it apart. This is the RP version, again mounted underneath with the relief valve sensing line external on the high pressure side. The reduced pressure principal detector assembly will be the 375A, which is the grooved in ST stainless steel, and DA for the detector assembly. Same stainless steel body as in the 375 AST will be used in the AST-DA. The bypass will have the bypass meter, and the 975 XL2, which is the lead-free version, is the bypass on that particular assembly. Relief valve will be the same as we saw in the ductile iron body version, which we just mentioned. So that's what our 375A ST, STDA, 350 AST, and 350 ASTDA look like. Let's take a look and see what they look like. Our first generation of the Wilkins 350 double check and 375 series was the ductile iron body, which we've already seen. Here's the 4-inch version with the non-A body, meaning it had a flanged connection, where the A body means that it has a grooved end connection, like we see here. But this is the version that was flanged, meaning the non-A. Single access cover comes off the top, exposes the check assemblies. So this is the presently produced unit, but they had a new generation that developed into the stainless steel version. It's, as you can see, the internal parts are very much the same. Slight differences on the check assemblies, which we'll take it apart so we can see those differences. Obvious one is that the stainless steel body, it has a gray check assembly, where the ductile iron body has a black check assembly. Anyway, same thing, has a grooved access cover, 2 check valves held in by the same retainers as we saw in the earlier version, and the exact same relief valve that we saw in the earlier version. Let's take a look at the new generation of the stainless steel body. Check mechanisms are same as we saw in the 350 and 375 series, where the checks are held in by a retainer clip. Check is modular, sealed in by an O-ring, but you'll notice that the ductile iron body, the checks are black, and in the stainless steel body, the checks are gray. Different type of plastic, but basically that was for a color designation to differentiate between the two. The actual check discs and are the exact same between the two. The only difference is the mounting O-ring on the check assembly right here and here. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go ahead and take the cover off. They utilize the same groove coupling that they did in the ductile iron version. So we have the two bolts that hold the clamp. Once you get the two bolts off, the clamp will come off. Grooved gasket and cover. So same groove coupling. You can see right here the groove here, and of course the second groove goes over the top of the cover just like that. Now, same check mechanisms we see. We have the first check that has, I'm going to tip it down for you to see. The first check has the plastic retainer in the top, and the second check, which you can see from the side view, has the same stainless steel clips that hold it as we saw in the ductile iron version. So removing the check module from the body, check clip comes off, clip comes out, check assembly will come out, handle on the first check, so for ease of removal. As you can see, it looks exactly the same as what we're looking at in our previous version, except the check assembly is gray. The older generation, the check is the black. Same retainer used, and in fact, when you buy the rubber repair kit for this assembly, what you're going to get is the check discs, the O-rings that go on the back of the bolts that we already saw, but there's two different check module O-rings. There will be two O-rings loose in the bag like this, and then there'll be two O-rings that are in a separate bag that are marked AST. These are the check O-rings for the gray or the ST version. These are the O-rings for the black plastic or the non-ST version, the ductile iron body. So when you buy the rubber repair kit, you don't have to buy a separate kit for the stainless steel and the ductile iron body. One kit will fit all, but you're going to end up throwing away two O-rings, depending which one you're fixing, whether it's the ductile iron body or the stainless. Disassembly is exactly the same as we saw in the previous generation. 4 bolts on the 4-inch on the back with our handle, with the O-rings on the back side of each of the bolts. Comes off. Disc holder, check disc. Again, it's a symmetrical, meaning you could turn it over if you had to, if you didn't have parts in emergency. Reassembly is going to be the reverse. Line up our bolt holes like that. Go ahead and install the 4 bolts. I'll just put in 2 now, so you don't waste time seeing me attaching bolts the whole video. The seals the check is the O-ring, and that's what seals it inside the body. You can see right here in the second check, I've got the O-ring removed, so you can see where the O-ring passage sits, just like that. And the retainers are right there. So O-ring goes in the slot right there. One, just see the slot without the O-ring in it. The retainer, which sits on the side right there, holds it into the body. So once we replaced the disc, replaced our cover bolts, O-rings, and of course our O-ring on the body, we're ready to put it back in the body. Now this is a cutaway outside without its number 2 shut off or number 1 shut off here. So we want to make sure we kept our test cocks open, because as we go to insert this back into the body, we could have a problem where we're pushing against a locked here if we didn't have the test cock number 2 open, pushing into the body. So make sure you have the number 2 test cock, which will be on the shut-off valve, open, so that when I go to push this check assembly in there, I'm not just compressing air, pushing it in like that. Anyway, once I got the check assembly lined up, put it in the body, make sure it goes into the slot right there. You can see where we have our retainer right here. The retainer slot right there. So now we want to take our retainer, put it in place, put the clip in on the side, work it all the way around so that it gets into that slot right there, making sure the retainer is pointed up on the top here. Second check has the double one like we saw in the 375 the ductile iron body version. That was the check mechanisms. There was a 4-inch here, but that's the same checks that are used in the 2.5 through 6, which means the clip that holds it in place. I wanted to show you an 8 and 10-inch check assembly though, just so you could see the difference. This being the ductile iron version, but you get the same idea instead of being gray. The main difference on the 8 and 10-inch is that the check assemblies are bolted into the body. You can see the holes here. There will be studs inside there, and the nuts will go on the outside, and that's how it will attach in the body, is still with an O-ring seal that you see here. But instead of using the clips to hold it in the body, there will be nuts and bolts holding it in place. Same type of mechanism though, holds the disc into the disc holder. You do not have to release the spring tension for the average repair, but the 8 through 10 inch does have that same design where it comes off the back and you can replace the disc, and it is symmetrical, can be turned over. So on the 8 and 10 inch, the only difference being that the checks are mounted into the body with bolts and studs rather than with the clip. It is sealed with an O-ring sealing right here. Let's go ahead and put the cover back on. Same groove coupling that we saw on the ductile iron body version. Get your gasket on there, proper lubricant, put the cover on top, make sure the gasket comes up over the groove slot so that the groove clamp goes all the way in the retainer on the bottom here and over the lip of the cover. Groove couplings are semi-new to our industry. Just every manufacturer is starting to show up with them. The single axis covers on backflow assemblies. They've been used by the fire sprinkler business for a lot of years, but kind of new to our backflow industry in the last 10 years or so. Main thing you want to make sure is that when you do tighten the groove coupling, there's going to be 2 bolts on the smaller sizes. Up to gets about 12 inch, and then it goes to 3 and 4. But making sure that the clamp is tightened so that the 2 ends bottom out on the top. The relief valve is mounted under the bottom. We're not going to take it apart because it's the exact same relief valve we saw in the 375 series, the ductile iron body. So this is the stainless steel version. Little quick review. In the old version, meaning the ductile iron version, the 375 without an A designation meant it was flanged. A 375A meant it was a ductile iron body, but it had a grooved end like we see here on this one instead of a flange. The 375 ST series means that it was a stainless steel body, and again, they're only going to come in the grooved end configuration. There will not be a flanged version or a non-A version. Reason it's important to know about the A and the non-A, basically in the older version, in the 2.5 and 3 inch there was a separate repair kit with the flanged version, and a 4 inch was another repair kit. But when you got to the A version, you had to use the 4 inch kit for 2.5 through 4 inch. So it was very important with the old version, the ductile iron version, that you knew if you had an A or you did not have an A. In the stainless steel version, there is no option. There is only the A body. So this is our stainless steel body, which is the new generation of the ductile iron body in a 350 double check, 350 detector assembly, 375 RP, and 375 detector assembly with the ST designation, meaning stainless steel body.